The foundation of any structure or building is arguably the most important part of that building. The same is true for investments, and the foundation of a great investment is a high rate of return. Now, the next video talks about the 5 pillars or different qualities that make an investment robust and well-rounded, but even a robust investment is a bad investment if it has a low rate of return. Just like a well-built wall would crumble without a solid foundation. The rate of return you get is so important, and that's why having a high rate of return is the foundation of any great investment. So what rate of return is considered a high rate of return? Well, first let's talk about what is not a high rate of return. In the US, inflation averages between 2 and 3% per year. So if you're not making at least 3%, you're actually losing money because inflation is causing the purchasing power of your initial investment to decline faster than the rate of return is making it grow. So if you invest in something like a CD or certificate of deposit at 0.19%, you're actually losing money, not making money. If you invest in bonds, you can probably expect about a 5 to 6% rate of return. That's a little bit better. Stocks average about a 10% rate of return. And Bitcoin, although super volatile, has averaged an 18% rate of return. Now, is that considered high? Maybe, but not if you compare that to real estate investing. Now, every property and every market is different, and I can't guarantee that you'll get the exact same results that I have, but I personally get over a 100% rate of return every single year with my rental properties. I'll show you exactly how that breaks down when we talk about the 4 money makers in the next section, but my real estate portfolio performs more than 10 times better than anything else I've ever invested in. Now, how can my returns be that high? There's a lot of reasons, but the biggest reason is leverage. I can buy a super valuable asset with very little of my own money. Think about this. Imagine 2 neighbors, John and Kevin. If John was to invest $5,000 into a well-performing stock and his neighbor Kevin invested $10,000 into that exact same stock, who would make more money? Well, obviously Kevin would. He invested twice as much money, so he made twice as much money in return. But what if you could invest $5,000 and get to purchase $10,000 worth of that stock? Then you'd make the same amount of money as Kevin, but with half of the initial investment. So your rate of return would be twice as high. And what if you could invest $5,000 and get to purchase $100,000 worth of that stock? Then you'd make 20 times more money, and your rate of return would be 20 times higher than it was in the first scenario. This is exactly what happens when you invest in real estate. You get to buy this awesome asset, a rental property, and you only have to put 20% down, 5% down, or with some loans, only 3.5% down. That means with $5,000, you could purchase an asset worth $142,000. The bank will loan you the rest of the money that you need. Now, that asset will go up in value at the same rate, whether you paid cash for it or bought it with leverage, it doesn't matter. Let's say that property increases in value by 3.5% per year. That is the national average for the housing market in the US. Only 3.5% per year is pretty small growth. It's just barely above inflation. But a 3.5% increase on the $142,000 property that you own is an increase of $4,970. Now, you only invested $5,000 to buy this house, and in 1 year, it made you $4,970. That's a 99% rate of return. All you did was keep up with inflation, and you pretty much doubled your money in 1 year. That is the power of leverage. Now, if that demonstration was confusing, don't worry, I will cover leverage again in more depth when we talk about the 4 money makers. It'll all come together for you, but the key takeaway here is that using leverage amplifies the rate of return that an investment can give you. Now, theoretically, you could use leverage to invest in any type of asset like stocks or bonds or anything really, but the only problem is that banks won't lend you money to buy stocks or bonds or mutual funds or anything like that. Banks want security, so they want their loans backed up by something tangible, something reliable, something like a piece of real estate. Real estate is the only investment that I know of that banks will readily give you money to invest in. So that means it's one of the only ways to tap into this power of leverage. So what's the catch? Well, when you get a loan, you now have a monthly payment to worry about. Plus, when you have a loan, you'll have to pay interest on the money that you borrowed. So won't that eat away at your returns? Well, first off, you have a tenant who pays you rent, at least enough to cover your mortgage payment, and whatever's left over, you get to keep as a bonus, just in case the 99% rate of return wasn't quite enough for you. And second, yes, you do have to pay interest on the loan, but it's not you who pays the interest. You make your mortgage payment with the rent rent that you collect. So you personally don't pay a single dollar of interest. Your tenant pays all of that interest for you. And in fact, they'll also pay down your loan balance for you. So eventually you'll own the entire property without a dime of debt left on it. But even if you did have to pay the mortgage with your own money, remember what I said about inflation averaging between 2 and 3% per year? Well, guess what interest rates are on mortgages right now? Usually around 3 to 4%. Most of my properties are locked in around a 3.25% interest rate. So after you adjust for inflation, the money I borrow is pretty much interest free, because even if I was the one paying on the loan, I'd get to pay it back over time in the future with inflated dollars. A $1,000 payment in today's money 10 years from now will be about equivalent to a $700 payment in today's money. And 20 years from now, that'll be about equivalent to a $500 payment in today's money. So even though my payment stays the exact same, because of inflation, it's gonna feel like my payment is going down and down and down. So tying this all together, the foundation of a great investment is a high rate of return, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to build your wealth the fastest. And getting crazy high rates of return with real estate is super easy because of the ability to amplify your return by using leverage. This principle is so true that when you invest in real estate, even just keeping up with inflation can bring you over a 99% rate of return.